Hello and welcome back to Havoc and our World War simulator, I guess you could kind of call it. Anyway, we're going to be attacking a bunch of villages very honorably yet again. Now, obviously, here's the thing. The main reason why we do this, of course, is to gain as much influence as possible to increase our mercenary wages. But apart from that, my goal... A lot of people have been asking what my goal is for this series. Well, obviously, the one thing that we need to take note of is just how many very strong factions there are going to be at this point. So, what I'm actually going to try, at least for now, is kind of flip-flopping around a little bit. Usually I don't like to do this because I feel as though, it's probably a good idea to, shall we say, ally ourselves with some people and just stick around with them, basically. Just stick around with them and try to maximize the amount of territory that that particular person or people are able to take. In that case, that is obviously Monchug, in our case, shall we say. But now, here's the thing. Obviously, that is not what I want to do generally. I really do not want to stay with Monchug, obviously. That's, I mean, that's obviously not the best idea in any way, shape, or form, because he has already 3 fiefs. He has 3 fiefs already. It kind of makes no sense for us to ally ourselves with someone that's already so incredibly strong. The only reason why I did that is generally for proximity reasons, for the fact that he is in a rather safe position to sort of protect his territory right now, and us being able to sort of stick around in his territory being relatively safe is actually kind of nice. So we don't really need to worry too much about getting absolutely murdered from any angle at any time, because in those kinds of situations, especially when you join a faction this early on, it's going to be a case of what is safest for us? Because in this case, if you join a faction, you're going to literally have, well, many enemies, as you can see right here. I mean, obviously we've made peace with a couple of them, but if I were, for example, to ally ourselves with this guy, all the way over in Batanian territory, you can see here there is a very limited amount of space for their vassals to move around in, and as a result, most of the time you're probably going to be encountering an opponent of some kind just stepping outside your front door, pretty much. Now, on the other hand, if I ally myself with Monchug, at least at the moment, it can be relatively safe. Obviously, I'm doing okay as it is, I'm not really suffering too much, and... Not really suffering too much, he says. 80. How did you... Okay. I don't even know what happened. Okay, that was actually really funny. I don't know whether you noticed, but this particular vassal only had 63 units when I initially saw them. And then when we looked at the screen, the pre-battle screen, now all of a sudden they have 81. I'm not sure how that happened. Am I seeing things? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Anyway, I've also changed the weapons that my units are using, by the way, my melee weapons, because obviously, as I said before, it would probably be a pretty fun idea to try and have some of them at least use slashing polearms, and I had to disable the gear restrictions in some of them, just generally because I couldn't find the particular polearm that I wanted to use. Now, I was using billhook before. Billhook is a 2-handed polearm, and so it would obviously be pretty good for us to continue using that. But I actually wanted to use the Manavlions, or the Manavliatons, or whatever they're called. In my opinion, they are really fun. In my opinion, they're just fun. Pure fun to use, and I'd like my units to use those as well. But obviously that very much depends on a number of things, because I'm going to assume that they're not going to be very good at using them, because they are obviously thrusting polearms and most of my people are equipped with shields. So if I did want to have them use the Manavlions with a 2-handed stance, I'm going to have to remove some of my units' shields. I haven't done that yet, but it might be something for us to consider at a later date. I'm actually going to be increasing my engineering skill here, because I'm wholeheartedly assuming that we will probably be doing some sieges at some point or another. I mean, it's going to be a bit difficult. Let's face it, it's going to be very difficult because, I mean, you know, the prosperity of all these fiefs is at maximum or at a very, very high level. And as a result, they're going to have extremely large garrisons and very highly trained garrisons at that. So this is going to be kind of interesting. Let's see what we can do here. I'm going to see if I can maybe do a strategy that someone mentioned in the comments. And I'm actually, I feel like I've used this before, but it's definitely one of those that I'm not very good at using. Let's just say that. I'm really not very good at using these strategies. So basically what it is taking these guys, my forces, having them follow me, and having them follow me in a counterclockwise rotation, and then having my forces fire at the opponent from that angle. I can only hope that this is actually going to work as intended. If it doesn't, then, well, then that's just bad luck for me, right? That is just bad luck for me, because in many cases, especially in these cases right here, where we are outnumbered and probably outgunned as well, let's face it, we probably will have some big problems. Yeah, also, I'm not doing this right, by the way. This strategy is actually very good. It's just a case of me doing it right and actually getting a couple of really nice kills here. It's just a shame I'm really bad at it. Ugh. Yeah, I mean, you can see here my forces, I think they're a bit slow. It might be that they are not using very good horses. Maybe their horses are a little bit too on the slow side, potentially, with their speed and everything. But they seem to be lagging behind me quite a bit, which is obviously not something that you want to see, but I don't know, I feel like it's working quite well, although, you know, notwithstanding my own ineptitude when it comes to actually navigating around the battlefield, which is in general the main reason why I tend not to do these kinds of strategies. But I gotta say, it is good. It is good. I mean, you can plainly see that it is working quite nicely. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell my forces to charge in now. And I am actually going to be attempting to get a number of better weapons as well for myself. Obviously, we did get a lovely new bow recently, but I do need to get a much better polearm. And I think I would like to get something like a long glaive, but the problem with getting a long glaive is that it is, and it's going to sound weird me saying this, but it is very strong. And obviously me saying that, it's just like, well, wouldn't you want to be strong? That's the point, you know. Anyone, you know, hearing that for the first time is going to be literally thinking, well, why don't you want your character to be strong? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, yeah, that's weird, right? You want to make sure that your character is as strong as possible. Wouldn't you? Well, that's the point. Sometimes, yes, absolutely, you would want your character to be strong. But I think, for me, it might be too strong. I'm not sure. Because the long glaive, I've used that quite a few times in the past, actually. Well, one, you know, kind of a similar weapon to that. And in my opinion, slashing polearms are super fun to use. They are really fun to use. So I think what we'll do is we will end up using a slashing polearm. But I need to kind of get a good handle on whether it's going to be something that we'll continue to use throughout the entirety of the series. I would like to get my hands on a Menace, if at all possible. Menace is absolutely amazing. I love that weapon, and it actually has a pretty decent balancing between length and damage. I mean, look at the what was that? How dare you, sir? How dare you? I will poke you now. I will poke... Oh, never mind. Apparently, he's going to get back on his mount. He doesn't care. Yeah, this guy needs to die. This guy needs to die. There we go. There we go. All right. So, yeah, that was a slashing polearm up close and personal. That was basically you getting well, kind of a crash course in what they're like, if you don't know what they're like already. And they are really good. You know that. They are really good. They are absolutely amazing. They do so much damage, and they're very easy to use. They require pretty much well, I would say probably very low skill to be able to use effectively. Even if you have a very, very low polearm skill, you can utilize them extremely well. And we actually achieved victory. Can you believe it? Oh my. I was actually expecting to lose quite a few more units, but I thought, hey, you know what? This particular vassal didn't have very many high tier units, and that kind of says to me, oh yeah, we're probably in for a nice victory here. So I'm thinking we're probably going to let them go. I actually wonder what would be the, I don't know, what would be the result of us actually executing enemy vassals in this particular scenario. Because if you think about the fact that every single one of these factions is, well, mostly at war against each other quite often, then it might make sense to actually execute people. But I'm not going to do that right now because I'm a little bit dubious about doing that, to be honest. I would like to try and maintain the population of the world as much as possible to encourage conflict. I want these people to be attacking each other almost all the time so that it, you know, continues to maintain that really, really intense skirmishes and fighting and all that wonderful stuff to happen almost all the time. So that's the reason why executions are probably going to be off the table for now, but maybe later on down the line we might want to consider doing something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, my workshops are actually doing quite nicely as well, by the way. Well, maybe to no one's surprise, because obviously the prosperity in each of these towns is actually amazing. You can see here that I am making over 1,000 from workshops. Yeah, pretty nice. Pretty nice. And we're just going to sell all of this. I'm not going to sell this. We are actually going to be doing some blacksmithing because, as I said before, it might be an idea for me to create my very own polearm. I have done that in the past where I've created my own polearm and things... Well, it goes quite well. Let's just say that. It goes quite well because if you do decide to craft your own, you can basically decide whatever you want with it, you know? You can decide on length, you can decide on damage, you can basically customize it to your liking, and that's actually partially the reason why I think the smithing system is actually very, very good in those situations where you actually get to customize almost every single thing about a weapon. In the case of, let's just say, I don't know, making a thrown weapon, or making a, I don't know, what else is, I guess a two-handed sword. There's really only one thing you can really do with a two-handed sword to make it actually really, really effective, and that's to get a good balance of speed and length, and obviously damage. Damage is obviously a thing that you need to take note of almost every single time, but in those cases, two-handed sword, it's almost always going to result in very similar stat lines. At least that's been my experience so far, but obviously it can differ dependent on your own personal preferences. Anyway, I'm actually going to be buying a bunch of hardwood here. I can buy this for four gold at McKeb, but I'm just going to buy a bunch just because I would like to go into the smithy and see what's actually going on here. So I'd like to smelt some things. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do this. Yeah. I'm not going to get a huge amount of charcoal from this, unfortunately, so it might be that I will need to go over to McKeb and see what I can do about getting some more hardwood. Oh well, never mind. Let's just do some of this. Or... Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's something that I did not reinstall after my fresh install before when I was attempting to fix that modding problem beforehand, the you know, the save game corruption thing. Okay, yeah, that yes, I used to have a mod called Smith Forever. There's also a thing in Chaos's Tweaks which will allow me to get unlimited stamina for smithing, which in my opinion is probably going to be something I will turn on, but I'm not sure at the moment. I mean, if we go into the smithy right here, you can see that my stamina, it doesn't seem to go up when I'm running around, which is... it's a little bit... I'm a little bit in two minds about that, to be honest. I would like to see stamina go up while you're running around. I'm actually not sure whether that is actually the case, but I mean, you can see how quick my stamina goes down. Boom, look at that. I could smelt like 3 things. So not great. Let's just say that. That is not great. Okay, so let's see what else we can do here. What I'm actually trying to do right now is basically just trying to get as much money as possible. Once I have a lot of money, once I have a pretty decent clan tier, and I'm talking maybe clan tier 3 and above, then I will probably look to try and take something. Although there might be an opportunity for us to actually pounce upon at some point in the nearby future. You never know, because sometimes there's going to be a situation where you think, oh, look at that, that's just been taken by someone, you know, and then you're going to have to make a snap judgment or a snap decision at that point. So that will probably be something to consider, but at the moment I think we'll probably stick with what we are currently doing, but bear in mind that obviously that is mostly due to my mercenary contract right now. I actually wonder whether I can get a similar mercenary contract with someone else. Because if I can get a similar one going somewhere else, like for example, if I were to maybe join these guys? Because they're right next, I mean, they're right next to the Crusade. I don't really want to fight the Crusade all the time, if I'm honest. I really do not. I would very much appreciate avoiding them at all costs. They are very annoying. Let's just say that. And we do have some more people that are leveling up. There we go. Okay. But, yeah. So what I'm actually going to do right now is I would like to go over to Myzea. Now, I have to be a bit careful here. I really do not want to get pounced upon by someone such as that. The guy behind me with 120 units or something. And that fellow over there as well. Oh, and this one too. There's a lot of people in the area that really, really... scare me quite a bit, so let me see if I can maybe just avoid them as much as possible. There we go. Alright. Yes. Okay, I got around just perfectly. Alright, so now, the reason why I'm in this Empire town, why do you think? Well, obviously I would like to try and find a Manavlion. I don't know whether they're going to have any. It doesn't seem like it, unfortunately. They do have a Cataphract Mace, but that is a one-handed, and obviously we're not going to be using any of those. Most of the other things that you can find here are not slashing either, which is actually, yeah, somewhat sad. Maybe, you know what? Maybe there's actually a glaive available in Crusade territory as well, because I think they do actually use glaives. I could be wrong about that, actually. I'm not sure. Anyway, there are two vassals fighting someone here. I will probably not be attacking or interfering in this at the moment. That guy is outnumbered quite heavily. I could fight these villagers, though. I know. I know. Yes, I could fight these villagers, he says. Okay, yeah. We're just going to attack these villagers and get some decent experience gains, I guess. And I'm just going to have to... Well, as I said in the previous episode, I'm just going to have to make it up by fighting a bunch of bandits. Yes, yes. Well, to be fair, considering we were able to completely eliminate one of the enemy vassals, and actually do it quite handily as well, we did it in a pretty convincing way, surprisingly enough, where we were actually able to achieve victory with, well, I'm not going to say minimal casualties, but we were able to do quite nicely, I feel like. You know, it seemed pretty surprising, actually. But who knows? Maybe we can do a little bit more of that as time goes on. But of course, this is just a shooting gallery at the moment. We are very easily able to win this. I'd like my bow skill to level up just that much faster, please. Seems like my riding skill is leveling up so much quicker. But my bow skill is lagging behind quite dramatically. Maybe I'm going to need to focus on that a little bit more. Maybe get a couple more headshots here and there. But yeah, my riding skill, of course, is going to be a lot easier to level up, especially when I'm on a horse. Because I'm able to do this wonderful thing where you can basically just ride as fast as possible and then hit from a fair distance away, and then you'll get some pretty nice experience gains from that. I'm actually going to speed things up here, and there you go. There's a wonderful retreat. Okay, so we're getting some decent renown, but obviously nothing amazing like we did last time, but that's because they are, well, quite clearly not overpowering us this time by the looks of things, because many more of my units have leveled up to tier 4, tier 5, and so on, so we are quite a bit stronger than we used to be. which is quite nice, I suppose. Anyway, let's make our way back to Crusade territory. Maybe I'll be able to find a glaive of some kind. It would be kind of fun if we could. Didn't I check this, actually, just now? Maybe I checked the one at Chaikand. I'm not entirely sure. A noble cavalry lance is over here. I mean, I have enough money, quite obviously, to be able to do these things. But the problem is it any good? That's the thing. Is it any good? I don't know. I remember when the War Razor was actually a polearm. Yes, a long time ago, the War Razor was a polearm, a slashing polearm, in fact. And it was very, very strong indeed, back then too. It was a lot of fun to use. Absolutely a lot of fun to use. Actually, you know what? Let me see. Do they have a bow? A better bow that I can use, potentially? Aha! They have the Nordic shortbow, but I'm not sure whether it's actually any good now, because we lose quite a bit of damage. Yeah, I think the simple shortbow is actually better. Oh well, never mind. What about this? Piercing arrows. Oh, this is nice. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, that's a much larger stack of arrows, going to be very, very useful for us. And aha! Do you think we can win a battle against someone that basically has double our units? Let me see here real quick. Okay, ooh, he has a lot of horse archers. Why does he have so many horse archers? Get out of here, you're not the Crusade. Oh well, never mind, never mind. Let me actually just take a quick look at my perks real quick, and then we will make a decision about whether we're going to go in here. I suppose we probably will. Increases your mounted melee damage by 5%. I don't really care about that. I do care about my ranged damage, though, so that is exactly what we're going to do. And increase my party size. Decrease mounted accuracy penalties by 30% while using a bow. Oh yes, give me that. Thank you. And aha, meaningful favors. Generally, I very much prefer meaningful favors. I've seen some people actually say that forgivable grievances is really, really strong. But for me personally, I just prefer being able to get that double persuasion chance in the bag, basically, and that 10% better chance does make a, well, at least in my opinion, it makes a bit of a difference. So that's what I'm going to go for, and otherwise, I'm not sure what else to go for here. We could go for scouting. Maybe scouting would be the way to go. Steward actually would be really good too, so I guess we'll go for that. We don't have an attribute point to spend. Okay, so let's actually just have a look-see here. What are these guys like? Oh, they're tier 3. They're tier 3. Yeah, I mean, we could do it, okay? We could do it. I mean, look at the combat strength. The combat strength is actually looking quite a bit in our favor. Well, not in our favor. I mean, it says the odds... He actually says that himself. That's very amusing. The odds are not in your favor today. And he says something Klingon. I don't know why. Anyway, let's have a look here. Yeah. I think we'll probably achieve victory here, but this is going to be a bit touch and go. I'm not sure whether we're going to be able to, but we're going to give it a good old try.
Sergeants, take command!
And what we're going to do is we're going to go auto-delegate here. I'm very much hoping that my forces will do a good job with the auto-delegation. What I'm going to do very specifically is I'm basically just going to leave the enemy's cavalry alone for the most part, and I'm going to try and pick on the enemy's crossbowmen and infantry, because these guys, they actually will probably determine whether we achieve victory or not. I know it sounds kind of weird, right? Because usually you'd think cavalry is probably going to be doing the most damage, but I actually think that the foot troops are the main reason why these enemies do tend to gain the upper hand against us. At least that's what I think most of the time, because of the cavalry having support from these various foot troops or infantry, they will just get that big advantage, whereas we don't have those, you see. We don't have any foot troops in any way. So it actually makes more sense for me to try and focus on the infantry as much as I possibly can. Maybe just picking off a couple of cavalry when and if I have the opportunity to do so. Because if we can eliminate more of these infantry, it actually creates more morale damage as well. If I can eliminate the enemy's very high tier units as well, that would be good. I have a very bad polearm right now. I should have probably purchased one of those. To be fair, I should have really just bit the bullet and just been like, yeah, you know what, let me just buy one of those really expensive ones and have done with it, basically. Ah, well, never mind. I would have purchased something if it was a Menavleon. I would have literally paid, I don't even know, 25,000, 30,000 for a Menavleon at this point, because I absolutely adore that particular weapon type. It is almost basically my perfect weapon, because it has the ability to thrust with massive damage, and it can also do slashing damage as well. And it can do everything, basically, that you want it to. It also is capable of being used with a shield. So even if you, even if you find yourself in a siege situation or something like that, you can still use the shield portion of your character's loadout to protect yourself and to play a bit more defensively. And so that's the reason why the Menavleon, with its versatility, is going to be so incredibly good. Obviously, this is just a personal recommendation from me. It doesn't really mean that much, but generally, if you haven't tried out a Menavleon in your own game, I would recommend it. But of course, if you're primarily using like a polearm or something like that on the fields of battle, then a glaive is probably going to be better in almost every respect, because it just has much more reach. And reach with these really, really large polearms is just so good. It really is. It makes everything so much easier. But it seems like we are going to achieve victory, and I'm not entirely sure if that's because of my strategy of actually me focusing on the infantry, or is it just because my units are, well, just better than his. It might very well be that. Because I'm not sure whether me actually attacking the enemy's infantry and kind of not, I wouldn't say distracting them or even eliminating them that effectively, but basically just being a bit of a nuisance, you know? Just being a bit of a nuisance, just kind of bothering them a bit. Maybe that has made a bit more of a difference than we anticipated, potentially. Not sure. But whatever the case, seems like that is going to be a victory for us. I'm just going to speed up the rest. And there we have it. Not too bad. Actually, probably one of the best victories we've had so far, if you can believe it. Look at that. Wow. That's pretty crazy. And Warlords of Kurt. Warlords of Kurt were the main reason why we achieved victory there. But I do have 28 of these guys. So that's the reason. That is the reason for my victory today. So that is actually very nice. And we are going to continue leveling up these forces. Someone actually asked why I did not go for tier 6 units. That's probably the reason. Generally, if I'm going to be creating a troop tree in my little warband, I like to try and prevent them from becoming too strong, and as a result I didn't want to go for a tier 6 unit. If I went for a tier 6 unit, we're going to get a similar situation to what these guys are, where the Imperial Elite Cataphracts, they are the tier 6 unit of the Empire. They are so strong. They are really, really strong. I mean, you can see their polearm skill right there is 260, and then they have one-handed and riding skill at 200. And the Imperial Cataphracts, on the other hand, they have 160 polearm skill. 160. The difference between these two is staggering, because you see here, look at the polearm skill of the regular cataphract. It is 160, and then the elite version has 260. That is 100 skill points better for the elite version. It's actually staggering how much better the tier 6 unit is. And that's the reason why I kind of wanted to try and prevent my own forces from being too powerful in that aspect. So, hopefully I have, well, I mean, from this particular fight, it doesn't look as though I have done a very good job on that, but, well, I did have more tier 5 units than he did, and I suppose that's the reason why we achieved victory. I mean, it's just a straight-up power differential, I suppose. But otherwise, we can now recruit some more units. Oh, we actually leveled up our clan. Very nice. Okay, happy to see that. Let's ransom our prisoners right here. And then we're just going to go back into the trade screen and see what I can do about selling all of this. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to buy some more... Oh, we've got a load of hardwood here for sale. Unfortunately, the only thing holding us back now is the stamina of the smithy itself. So I'm going to have to be a bit careful on this. I'm going to buy about 100 or so hardwood. And then in the next episode, I will have enabled the infinite stamina. I am sorry to those of you that really enjoy the stamina system of the smithing that you can obviously do by default, but I personally do not. This is one of those things that I really, really do not enjoy that much of. I don't get me wrong now, I very much enjoy doing smithing itself, but I do not enjoy the stamina system. And I understand why the stamina system is is implemented in the game and included with the whole thing. I understand that, but hopefully you'll understand why I don't like it, especially for a series in this aspect. Because when I sit down and do some smithing, I want to be sitting down and doing some smithing for 5-10 minutes and just kind of working things out, trying to make the best possible weapon that I can. And I won't be able to do that if I'm consistently stopped by this artificial barrier that is the stamina system. So hopefully you'll understand that. And yeah, well, that's basically it. Anyway, ooh, hello there, noble bow. 136,000. Yeah, good luck. I'll never be able to afford this. Well, I will be able to afford it eventually, but yeah. This is very, very expensive. I will be purchasing one of these as soon as I possibly can, but obviously it's 100 and... Wait a minute. Yeah, that is 136,000. I thought it was 1 million for a second, but no. It is 137,000 actually, and I have 71,000. So I will be getting there relatively soon, but that very much depends on if I sustain a defeat or anything like that. Do they have any really, really good polearms? They have a lance with a heraldic banner. Is this actually good? Is this actually good? Should I buy this for science and just try it out? It feels completely useless to me. I'm gonna try it, okay? Because I'm very intrigued. I am very intrigued by this. Okay, so let me actually just move on here. Maybe we can do battle with one of the... Oh, this was raided just now, apparently. Okay. Oh, all of these have been raided. Oh, well, that's not very good. Okay, I guess I'll just go back to Crusade territory then, because it seems like most of these villages have been raided. That's also another reason why it's probably, at least, yeah, I guess in the early game, probably a good idea to try to go with a faction that is a little bit larger than the other factions, just so that you have more variety in the amounts of villages that you can recruit from. That's generally what I tried to go for, at least. Okay, haha, hello there, looters. Okay, why do we have 287? Why do we have so many people? Was that a villager party? Yeah, that was a villager party, wasn't it? Or it was the militia within the village, because that is actually a side effect of Havoc as well, where villages, because they have such high prosperity, well, they have more militia. They have many, many more militia, as you can see right here. Look at how many they have. So even if, you know, even if you try and raid one of these villages, because no doubt if you raid one of these villages, you're going to get a massive amount of money. You really are going to get so much valuable loot. This is one of the worst polearms I've ever used, as you can quite clearly tell. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's actually pretty cool in the way that the banner flaps in the wind and all that wonderful stuff, but it is, frankly, well, it's just very low damage. That's the only thing. It's just very, very low damage, and you can see that right there. I mean, basically, what's my polearm right now? My other polearm is like a jagged spear or something like that, some random spear that I have from the very beginning of the game, I think. And yeah, that is better than this, which is really weird, because if you take a look at the thrusting damage, it literally has 112 piercing damage. So you would expect it to do insane amounts of damage, right? Maybe just for the, I don't know, for the drawback that the handling is really bad or the thrusting speed. But no, all of the stats actually seem pretty good. But seems like the stats don't actually determine how effective the weapon actually is, which is sad. But it's fine, because we're just going to go and, you know, re-equip the jagged spear that we have right there. And we were able to, you know, defeat some looters and increase our reputation with some people around here. So that's actually quite nice. Anyway, we are now at Clan Tier 2, almost Clan Tier 3. And hopefully that is going to continue onward. Now, someone has continued to say about the whole, you know, party roles thing. Okay, so here's the thing. I can't do that. As you can quite clearly tell, I cannot do that because I don't actually have any companions. So there is no way for me to determine myself as the quartermaster and all that stuff. So yeah, there you go. That's that's it. Full stop. There's nothing else for me to do there. Anyway, I think that's probably going to be it for this episode. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.